Hello, my name is Bernardo Vargas. I am Dr. Nearshoring, and I want to welcome to this new edition of Manufacturing in Mexico for Dummies. Today I want to devote this time to talk about the Mexican perspective or Mexican economic perspective for 2025 and evaluate the different factors and why in general in Mexico we think we're going to have a very negative year, and it's very likely that the country is going to enter into a recession or start a recession period, a recession time starting next year. Okay, so the first part that I want to talk about is the influence of Donald Trump. If all the terrible political decisions that have been made by the previous government of Morena from López Obrador, which really impacted negatively the economy, and now this other government is continuing in the same path of making the same and even more mistakes. Now we have Donald Trump. Before going to Donald Trump, I want to make like a quick summary of a very quick summary, so you remember some of the big damages that were caused by the previous government. In Mexico, we have reserves created for many different purposes, but we had about 1 billion pesos, which in pesos is a million of pesos. That's like I think $500,000 million dollars, $500 billion dollars. For different purposes. For example, big disasters fund. There was other funds to support medicine, to support the social security, in general, to support sometimes to support social needs. All those were removed, and the money was let's say used for different purposes, but there's no money anymore. The last government of López Obrador finished with all those resources. So we ended up with no reserves. Mostly those resources were used, which is the second big problem. A big percent of the budget of this country, I would say almost 30% of the budget has been used in building a refinery, oil refinery to produce gasoline, and an airport, and a train that is circulating in the Yucatan Peninsula. All those projects were, let's say, like the star projects in AMLO government, but they have been useless. It's been 5 years since they started the refinery. It's not refining yet, and it started with a budget of $8,000 million. Now it's in 20. I think it's in $21 million, $21 billion. Yes, $20,000 million. So clearly, 3 times, almost 3 times, and it's not finished. And there's still experts that are critic to this government think, when is this thing going to work? There's still infrastructure around that hasn't even been built yet. But they have inaugurated that plant like 3 or 4 times in the last, but it has never produced a single liter of gasoline. It was built without all the service pipings for putting in their oil. It hasn't built it yet. So the airport, he decided to cancel an new airport in Mexico City that was already has progress of 30%, and then decided to start the construction of other in near state of Hidalgo. Terrible airport, no roads to access, terrible access. It was an airport to serve Mexico City. Nobody uses that airport. Again, another white elephant. Terrible, terrible. And then the last one, the train that is supposed to be around, going around the Yucatan Peninsula, not finished yet. Also, I think right now it's about $15 billion, and it was forecast to cost half, and it's going to be finished probably in 3 times the cost. But even when it's finished, it's not gonna work. So they use all that money in that, and then the other big part of the money they use in social purposes, which means giving up money in different social programs to the people. Giving up money, giving away money. Right now, it represents, and we're going to talk about by the end of this chapter, we're going to talk about the 2025 budget and how terrible it is and how terrible it looks. But this is only some part of it. But the other big part is that this government doubled the total Mexican debt, and it went from 9 billion pesos, which is million, not billion like US billion, 9 million pesos to 16. But they have this cynical attitude of saying no extra debt. Of course. Oh, and on. And I want to talk about what's currently happening with Trump. Okay. I have collected some of Trump's threats. I think corresponding to now that he got elected. And tariffs is 25%. He's threatening to implement tariffs to Mexico and Canada of 25% in all the products until both countries commit to control immigration, illegal immigration, and drugs. Okay? There have been other tariffs. For example, during his campaign, he said that he was going to go from 15 gradual and progressive tariff from 15 to 30 to 50 to 75 to 100%. But if Mexico didn't do anything about fentanyl and immigration, for example, remember that one. There's another one in tariffs which is the Chinese cars. He said, which was a lie, that in Mexico were coming many companies from China to install manufacturing plants to build cars to export to US. Well, part is a lie and part is not. Not many. I think there have been 6 that have mentioned they have interest in building a plant in Mexico. Mexican authorities, to that threat of Donald Trump, have said there's no plant in Mexico building Chinese cars. Well, yes, there are 2, Jack and Bike. Bike is installed in Veracruz, and Jack is installed in Estado de Hidalgo, the state of Hidalgo. Both have been there, I think, for more than a year, and they are producing lots of cars, but not to export. So it's true, but it's not true that these plants are produced to export to the United States. These plants are producing for local market and for South America, Central and South American market. Yes, and Trump said, when I threat them, one Chinese company decided to stop. I think Jack was planning to invest $1,600 million, and they decided to pause, to stop. That's an investment to build a second plant, or at least to build an expansion to expand their capacity. And the name of the company is Jack. Okay? That's true. Now, something that can be considering that probably something that can be considered Mexico is cheating is that we have those manufacturing plants from China, and the local market is buying and using those cars. Well, somebody may think, hey, why Mexicans are not buying General Motors or Stellantis or Ford, right? Well, I think it's same as the Japanese. The Japanese companies have plants here. They have also Korean companies. They have plants here. They export, like Volkswagen, right? They are Germans. They have a plant here, and we use some of the production. We export some of the production to other countries, including the United States. So it can be debatable, but that's what he says. It's part a lie and part true. And then the other another threat is the immigration. He's saying that there's gonna return 4 million immigrants. Many experts have said it's gonna be very difficult for the United States to return 4 million. Yes, I agree. I think 4 million it's gonna be very difficult, but I think 1 million he can do it. And the other important thing, we need here in Mexico, and the foreign investors, either from United States, Europe, we need to believe and be prepared for the risk that this government in the United States can generate, and the catastrophe they can generate in Mexican economy. It's estimated that if 50% of Trump's threats are true or become true, the gross domestic product of Mexico is going to fall 16% by 2030. I think they're estimating it gradual, but I think it's going to be harder than that. So then military action. He's also threatening Mexico with military action. Hey, I think many Mexicans, I have heard in social media, different groups. Many people think, hey, let them come. I mean, as long as they don't mess with regular good people, working people, good citizens, I don't see anything wrong in getting the help from U.S. This government is ultra nationalist, and they claim the independence of Mexico and all that bullshit. For me, it's bullshit. But Mexican government is I think is gonna raise the boys. They're not gonna do anything. If United States decide to do it, Mexico is not gonna do anything. Only talk. So not worry too much about that. And then the drug trafficking. I think Mexico share the problem in terms of violence. Is something that United States have been very selfish, mainly because the supply of weapons. I think for the population, for the regular citizen like me or somebody else here in Mexico, what we see is all those weapons are coming from the United States. The United States can do something to prevent those weapons to be sold. And then also the Mexican government don't take actions to prevent those weapons don't cross the border. But the other big factor, I think, is the responsibility of U.S. government and authorities in trying to prevent, to avoid the use of drugs. Not only control, to avoid the use of drugs in the United States. I think they can do much more of what they're doing. Because, okay, let's take idea this to an extreme. What happened if suddenly Mexican authorities do their job 200% and they stop going, they stop fentanyl going to the United States, and also cocaine and others. They stop. The market will continue there. The United States is going to get the drug from somewhere else, as always had happened. Before Mexico, it was Colombia. And then they fight Colombia, and Colombia reduced their production, reduced their influence, the narco dealers, drug lords in Colombia, they reduced their power. But then they moved to Mexico, like cockroach. Different, same activity, different people. But the demand, something that didn't never change and only increase, was the demand in the US. Okay, so it's very difficult, but I think Mexico is gonna work on it. So I think as long as Mexico have a good team of negotiators, they can. I think they can reduce the worst effects. But we're gonna suffer. I think Donald Trump is gonna deliver what he promised. We're gonna see tariffs, and we need to be ready for that. In 2025 is gonna be a very tough year, and honestly, I don't know, because the experts in different from different media, newspaper, and sources, they don't agree if for how long Mexico is going to see this perfect storm. But I think at least we're going to see it until probably half of the period of Donald Trump. And remember, Donald Trump is going to be in White House for the last time. So I think this time he wants to make achieve historic goals. He wants to be remembered by some of the by the actions he made. So this is very bad for Mexico now. How Mexico is contributing to have a perfect storm in the economy for the next year? Well, the political reforms that we already talked, the judicial power change that now is going to be elected by people, and completely influenced by government. So that increased the risks for particular for the regular companies and for the citizens to actually have law and to have their rights respected in the case they need it. So huge risk right there. I mean, if I were a company considering to come to Mexico, for me, this big risk of not having assurance of the implementation of law and respect of my rights, that'll be a big driver for not coming. Absolutely. And then the other part is the five or six regulation regulation agencies that I've already talked in a previous program that protect from free competition, no monopoly, protect from government, protect the electric industry, protect the oil industry, protect the telecommunication industry in general, protect the rights of the people. They're not there. They're not going to be there anymore. All those activities are going to be now taken care by government. And I think it's going to be a big joke. That's not going to work. We'll see. But obviously my expectation is, I don't have high expectations on this. I think this is going to be also a huge risk that settle a company in Mexico and keeping operational and efficient a company in Mexico is going to be very difficult. Now the other big part is electric energy. Now they have put everything in the basket of the monopoly, and it's going to be harder and harder to produce by independent from government companies, private companies producing competitive prices. Now, it's not a lie for anyone that the cost of electric, the electric rates in Texas are double that we see here in the north part of Mexico. So, and then the cost of gasoline is the same. It's about 15, 16 pesos a liter in Texas, and here we are paying 23, 24, at least 10 pesos difference. So that's a terrible perspective. Now let me talk about very quickly about the budget, because this is a terrible budget. I think this government, if they ask, hey, please make the worst possible budget you can to avoid foreign investors to come. and they deliver. This is terrible. This budget reduced every single important line of the budget. For example, except the social programs where they give up when they give up money to social groups, like middle old citizens, I mean senior citizens, children, the scholarships. They call it scholarship, but it's not. It's a joke. It's not a scholarship. They just give away money with no control, no anything, no control of the performance of that student. They just give away money. That line is it's one of the important ones, of the large ones that increase. But the rest, let me tell you, on health for hospitals is minus 8.3%. Education minus 9% from last year. Then defense and security, minus 41%. Security minus 37%, but this is for the army. Environmental, to protect environment, minus 39%. Now, Pemex is, as you know, this company is in bankruptcy. They have a debt of $106 billion, and it's in debt because their debt is higher than their assets. Everybody knows that. In anywhere in the world, that when that happens, that company indeed it doesn't have a possibility of paying that debt. So the government is paying the debt and subsidizing the company to produce gasoline, but only as an ideological and political objective. And they have to put, they are forecasting to put $20,000 million every year to support Pemex. It's crazy. Pemex loses $35 for each DOT drum they produce of gasoline. And the refineries that we have in this country are so inefficient that they can produce, in the best case, 50% of that oil. So not only they are spending more for each drum, $35, but also very, very unproductive. So with this budget, the problem to meet this budget is that they are not forecasting 3% growth. But experts are saying it's only going to grow 1% or 1.5% in the best case. So they are not going to be able to meet the budget. And they're going to be missing money. And now for the foreign investment, the debt of the country is growing to 18 billion pesos, millions of millions, from 16 to 18. López Obrador, double. Sorry, I have a cutting power, but I was about to finish and get to the conclusions. So what I was saying is that López Obrador already reached from 9 billion pesos, which is 9 million of millions here in Mexico, to 16 billion pesos. And now in the first year, they are requesting 2 billion pesos more to reach 18 billion pesos. Only from the budget, from the 9 billion pesos of budget for 2025, 1.6 are devoted to pay debt. That's already almost 20% of the budget. It's terrible. Mexico is reaching 50% of the domestic growth, domestic product, gross from the GDP, from the gross domestic product, is reaching 50% the value of its debt, which is very risky, because here in Mexico, the collection that we do with taxes is very little. It's about 14%, while in countries like Japan is, I think, 80%, 90% of the gross domestic product. So for us, it's terrible. What is leading to this? The agencies like Moody's are giving the debt of Mexico a very low score. So right now, the score of Mexico is Baa, and then during this fourth quarter, beginning this fourth quarter, and after the new president took place, and with all the changes in the constitution, they are giving, Moody's is giving a Baa minus. As you know, from this point down, everything is a chunk bonus. So the risk is obvious. We're gonna have to pay, Mexico as country will have to pay higher interest rates. And then with that lack of money in the economy, the inflation is gonna grow. These two governments have not been able to control the inflation. So it's very likely we're going to have high inflation next year, very low growth, less than 1%, yes, and a high exchange rate. Right now, it's almost 21 pesos. It's about 2060, yes. But as soon as Trump takes position and start implementing the policies, and then when we finally start seeing the result of all the reforms that this government, terrible government, is going to be trying to implement during 2025, we're going to be implementing, and we're going to start seeing the results, like the judicial power. When we finally see what's the outcome from the new judges there placed by the government, and the absence of the regulatory, independent, autonomous organizations, then we're going to start seeing our problems expand, and I think the employment rate is going to go down due to some companies leaving and some other companies shrinking to avoid the risk. So it's going to be the perfect storm. We're going to start in a recession, I think by third quarter, and then probably, hopefully not, we're going to be a crisis with a negative growth by the end of the year. Okay, so things are not looking very well. Unfortunately, this is the economic perspective, and I hope this helps you. The recommendation is be careful, wait 2025 if you can. I do not recommend to start the new projects now in Mexico during 2025. I don't think it's wise. I would wait. I would recommend to wait, at least to see how the economic outlook turns out to be. Probably wait by the end of 2025 to see if the situation got stable in some way, if Trump's government was not really that bad with Mexico, and the political changes we made are not spoiling and really destroying the Mexican economy and the Mexican industry. If we see that outlook coming better, then I think that'll be a moment for reconsider investments here in this country. Thank you very much. My name is Bernardo Vargas. I am Dr. Nearshoring, and I really appreciate you join me, and I hope you join me again in the next chapter. Thank you very much.